Hey, everybody. I just wanted to introduce everybody that's here for podcast number 1. This is Not Just Idle Chatter, episode 1. This is State of the World. This is a podcast that myself, Kevin Wilson, and Damien Echols has talked about for a little while, wanting to be able to put something together for all of our viewers and listeners to be able to hear about what goes on in our world. Today is a very special episode, considering that we are not doing it via audio and we're doing it video, considering right now we're dealing in weird times. Right now we are dealing with a quarantine situation with the coronavirus, which is spread worldwide. And due to social distancing, we are doing this podcast remotely at 4 different locations, whether it be in New York or Virginia. And I just wanted to introduce who we have here today. So again, my name's Kevin Wilson. We also have Damien Echols. Damien is pretty well known for being a New York Times bestseller artist. We also have Doug Bainton, who is a New York City firefighter. And we have Randy Blythe, the singer for Lamb of God, well-known author and Leica photographer. So guys, why don't we start off with saying, hey.
Hello. Hello, world.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to see all you guys, man. In such a weird virtual space.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's an interesting state that we're dealing with right now, especially the fact that everybody is dealing with a lot of different types of coping mechanisms for the fact that we're all stuck inside in quarantine. People can't really go outside and interact with people the same way. Many industries have been affected, so that's why it's nice to be able to have this versatile group that we have here today to talk about how things have impacted people, the seriousness of this, and what people can do to help try to stop this together. So, Randy, you're in the music industry, so
yes.
Clearly this has had a big impact on your industry, and I've seen it, myself just being a photographer, I know my season's been canceled, but you're in the music industry and you are the frontman for a very well-known band, and you are touring with notorious different bands throughout the next couple months, and it pretty much seems like everything has been swept away. So why don't you tell me about what you're noticing on your end?
Yeah, right now it's Monday, March 23rd. I was supposed to be leaving for Europe in 2 days. We were supposed to be doing a month-long tour with headlining run with Creator and Power Trip. That obviously we held out as long as we could on that, but I just started seeing all the different cases of this virus popping up in country after country, and fans were constantly on our social media, are you coming? And it's like, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Obviously, due to the rapid nature and the rapid nature of this pandemic, the virus spread so fucking easily on so many different ways, through sneezing and being on surfaces that you touch and so forth. Things accelerated really quickly. So when we saw that it was just the writing was on the wall, management started talking to the promoters, and the promoters, of course, were trying to hold on as long as they could too, because we're in sort of unprecedented territory in modern times here. There have been pandemics before, of course. There's the SARS outbreak and all that stuff, but this is moving so swiftly and nobody's prepared for it. So promoters are losing their ass. I know of bands that have had records that are in the can, ready to go. The label is like, we're not going to release this record right now because pre-orders didn't even stop, and you can't go out and tour and support it. And that's how you make your money and how you sell records. That's what the record label wants. And it's how you personally make your money, is going out on the road and selling t-shirts. Our road crew, some of those guys had already put in long hours preparing for this particular tour. So the tour is canceled, but they already worked, so we have to pay them. We're paying our tour manager, our lighting guy who designed all this stuff. Our techs, they work tour to tour. If they don't go on the road, they don't make money. There's, some of them have a side hustle at home working at local clubs and stuff, but that's done with now too. So it's really devastated the industry. And we are going to take a financial hit on this. My band will. Luckily, I'm fortuitous enough to be in a larger, more successful band within our genre, and we live in Virginia, where the cost of living is pretty cheap, and none of us really live extravagantly. And I put some money aside, so I'm going to be okay. And we're going to be able to hopefully, advance our crew guys some money, until we can get back on the road, because these people have, just like everyone else, they have insurance to pay, they have kids to feed, they have mortgages to pay, they got to get groceries, all that stuff, and everyone's hurting. We're pretty lucky to the nature of the size of our fan base, you know what I mean? And we have been on tour for quite a while, so we stack some money, and I live pretty simply. What really I feel really I feel a lot of empathy for the younger bands. I had some friends and smaller bands who don't have the sort of infrastructure behind them that we do. I had some friends who were over in Europe, a lot of friends in Europe, who had to come home before tour even started. Two of my friends were over there. They're getting ready to do a small run, and just the two of them, it was sort of an acoustic thing. I'm not going to say who the artist is because I don't want to spread their financials, but this guy and his girl paid over $8,000 for 2 one-way tickets from Berlin to home, to the States, because they had to go home before the borders shut. That's devastating to a smaller band. They'd already printed T-shirts with the tour dates on the back. That's a big seller on tour. All that is a wash. All the bands, all the crew members for the smaller bands, their income is just gone. So for me, I'm not tripping so much on it personally because I'm pretty smart with my money. And like I said, I'm fortuitous. I'm not a millionaire or anything, but I have made money. I'm more worried about the younger guys and the younger girls in this. And it's time for me and my community and the music community to see what I can do for those people. Not just the music community, but I do have to take care of my own. That's why I liked your idea of the drop shipping prints. I'm a photographer too. Yeah. So I'm going to go, once I get a hold of my hard drives, I'm going to go through those and see what pictures of smaller bands I've taken and get some files to you, and we can have them drop shipped and the proceeds can go to those bands. But yeah, it's devastated the music industry, but I think it's going to devastate every industry pretty much. If anybody actually goes out and physically does anything, or the service industry is fucked right now. Hopefully restaurants can hold on, but I mean the wait staff, they're screwed. It's a tough time. So I think it's really time for everyone to kind of tighten the belt, because it's not looking good.
Yeah. So, Dougie, why don't you give everybody a little bit of insight on maybe your perspective on how fast and how furious this can spread, and the reason why, New York in general, I live in New York City in Manhattan, same with Damien and Doug. I know you live right outside the city, but, as of last week on Monday, our mayor was basically telling people, we're about to hit 1,000 people in Manhattan or in New York City. And now it's a little over a week later, and we're now sitting for New York City in general, and the boroughs, 12,300 and 20,000 people affected with the coronavirus for all of New York.
Yeah.
Doug, before you answer, I just want to mention something that Kevin didn't mention about Doug's sort of qualifications. Doug is also involved with the fire department New York DART team, disaster assistance relief team. So he's been to lots of disaster areas. I helped him out in North Carolina in 2018 after Hurricane Florence. He's been to the Virgin Islands. He knows what a disaster looks like. So he's not just some firefighter guy as well. He has a lot of experience with that. So just wanted to add that qualification.
Hero amongst heroes.
Yeah, you're a hero among heroes, brother. You're a hero among heroes.
If we could pat you on the back, we would right now.
The thing about this is that makes this very different than certainly any disaster I've ever responded to, is that for the most part, this is a very theoretical disaster, right? You can't see the damage. It's numbers on a screen. It's like watching the Dow Jones, like you can't go outside and see a house with a tree on it or a car upside down or flooding, right? You just hear about these deaths, but you're not seeing all the people in the streets, or you go out and you see the streets of Times Square are empty. And that's incredibly eerie. And I mean, you guys, I don't know if you've been to Times Square, Kevin and Damien, but it's bonkers to see that place empty. Never in my life have I seen it as empty as you see it now, That's kind of the only thing that some people have, the only reference they have where they can go outside and they know that this is a real thing. But then you look up the block and you'll see 15 people walking together like nothing's going on. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, folks like us, we're working 18-hour tours, 24-hour tours every single day, responding to, whether it's the folks in EMS and fire department going to medical calls and fires, and we're interacting with the public, and, we're exposed to this stuff by the nature of our job. And to watch those numbers creep, Kevin, like you said, we've known this was going to happen like this. They said it was going to happen, and we believed it. We've been preparing for this. And everybody else is just surprised because they've kind of been ignoring it, because it doesn't sound real. That doesn't happen. But like Randy just said, they're not going on tour. Bands aren't touring. Streets are empty. Your numbers, right? You just said 36 people died yesterday in New York City alone in 8 hours, or 10 hours. That number's going to go up again tonight. I get reports every night, and every morning I wake up and I'm just like, where's the top? Everybody talks about it's going to get as bad or worse than Italy. You're keeping track of what's going on in Italy. That's not a good outlook, and people just still aren't paying attention,
I have a question for Doug.
What's that?
Just on a personal level, this is something that I was thinking about, and I haven't been going out at all. I mean, I'm completely locked down. You're actually out there seeing. With your experience in looking at disasters in the past, I know, like you said, they're not really the same as this, but I've read stuff that says if people, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but if people would get someone and lock down for 14 days, that this could all blow over. It could all go away. Do you think at the level that people are locking down in New York City right now, do you think it's likely that that's going to happen, or do you think it's more likely that it's going to get a hell of a lot worse?
Based on what I've seen, people aren't locking down enough. Just yesterday, there was a wedding in Staten Island. It was on the news. This couple decided to have their wedding, and, the archdiocese is going to have to yell at the church for it. What are you thinking? What the fuck do you think we're all doing? This is real shit. People are really dying. That there will be people in the streets coughing and choking to death on their own bodily excretions. This is a real fucking thing, and people just walk around like it's their just daily business. They're pissed that the coffee shops and the bars are closed. Well, tough shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're whining about stupid shit. Sit in your fucking house for 2 weeks and figure it the fuck out. You have to talk to your friends and family for a bit. You know what I mean? Holy shit. We're using technology. I haven't seen Damien and Randy in a while, right? But, this is cool.
Yeah.
Figure it the fuck out. Yeah. But, I think that if everybody locks in, we have a better chance at, what they're calling flatten the curve, The problem is just not enough people. We still have groups of people not adhering to those rules. And as long as that's a thing, this is going to be a problem, and especially the city of 8 million people. I mean, where are you gonna go? Yeah, well, you know what, Randy, you got 2 weeks of food in your house?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, of course you do, right? I got 2
I'm
months of food in my house, right?
I'm a redneck, dude.
Yeah, no shit, right?
I'm
Now,
not.
my
I'm
city
not worried
friend,
about.
Evan, Damien, you got 2 weeks of food in your house?
I've got
Roughly 2 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
roughly there as well.
Most people
But-
don't in New York City. They shop every day on their way home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
meals.
used to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I
That's-
used to do.
and that's-
The only reason I have 2 weeks worth of food in my house is because I started to stock up. You know, just like you said, normally I shop from day to day. I stop when I'm, you know, coming home from, like, if I'm doing a tour at the Met or something, I'll stop on the way home and pick something up, and that's it. I don't keep food. You know, I never eat at home. The only reason I have weeks is because I stocked up to not go out.
Yeah, I try not to go out. You know?
Again, with everything going on, I started to like tighten up how I even purchase food right now, simply for the fact that I need to look at stuff that's going to last maybe a week or two longer. So it's like, while I have some fresh fruits and vegetables, I'm now looking at more things that are like non-perishable items that are going to be in cans.
You're a prepper now.
Stuff like that.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. So
I think,
you know, I'm dealing with that.
I think a key distinction needs to be made in people's minds, and it needs to be made right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when, you know, the shelter in place order comes to your state, which is coming. Don't get it twisted.
Best believe.
You better believe it. It's coming, and it's for your own good. A key distinction people need to start making in their minds is the difference between what you want and what you need. You don't need, you know, 8 gallons of your favorite flavor of ice cream. You don't need that. You don't need to go to the store for that. You know, you need what you need to survive and stay healthy. And ice cream ain't going to do that for you. So I think
Bacon and water.
yeah, bacon and water.
And Corona.
And I've been the type of person that I've had 2 liters of diet soda in my house, like almost every day. And like, as I started approaching this, I'm like, I don't need that anymore. And it's like, you start drinking more water. I need to take the things that are pure necessities at this point. And, you know, it's like, I make my own tea at my house, you know, things that I know that I can kind of stockpile on, that takes a smaller footprint, that I can have it last longer at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think other people probably need
That's
to.
one of the things I hope comes out of this. One of the many, many things I hope comes out of this is that people sit back and realize, like, oh shit, I was not ready for any of this at all. Like I hope people are getting their asses kicked mentally by this, you know, like, and I feel bad for everyone that's going to suffer as a result of their unpreparedness, you know, because we've been preaching this for a long time. You know, preparedness isn't a new thing. These lists are out. Yeah. It's just that show Preppers came on, and everybody, it became an adjective that you didn't want to be described by. You know?
Well, dude, having grown up in the country, this is the way.
That's life.
That's life. That's the way people lived for a long time. You know, before this era of Amazon Prime, I can have whatever I want delivered to my house. You know, I grew up, my grandma's house, she canned her own vegetables. You know, it was just, they had our own garden. We had our own chickens and stuff. And not everybody can do that, of course, in the city. You can't have a huge garden and a chicken coop and stuff. But it's not some sort of weird paranoia, like the new world order is going to take over and I have to prep. It's just a matter of being responsible for your own well-being, you know?
Yeah, down by you guys, you're the oddball if you're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, don't get it wrong. Richmond's a city, but we're much. I feel pretty lucky. We're a lot more spread out than New York. The population density is not so tight. You know, I think one thing people need to do right now is, and Damien can speak on this too, because we have a similar experience, is you pay attention to the behavior of the people around you. You pay attention to how people even act online and what they're saying and doing, because character comes out under stress, you know? And if you pay attention to how people are acting you're going to find out who's hard, who's soft, who has a good heart and is going to help people, and who's in it for them fucking self, you know? And that's going to become very apparent very soon. Mentally, I am prepared really well to deal with a two week, they were saying at first, of course it's going to be longer than 2 weeks, but a fairly long period of isolation, because I went to a gated community in a foreign country. Whereas I was joking before this podcast started, I went to boot camp. Damien is a career man, you know. He did a fair amount of time. You could say that very lightly. I'm wondering to hear from him any sort of maybe emotional coping skills he might be able to share with us on this, you know.
I think, you know, this is one of those things that for me is kind of crazy, just because when I was in prison, I didn't really live the way the average person in prison lives. You know, one thing I realized whenever I first got there is you would have all these guys living for, and these are guys on death row. These are not guys with sentences like a 5-year sentence, but these are guys that are still thinking about, you know, if I'm ever going to get out, or when I'm ever, you know, when am I going to get out, or if my case is ever going to be overturned. Those are the people who go stark raving insane. The ones who manage to survive for decades are the ones who forget about the outside world. Don't worry about what other people out there are doing. Find something that you can completely and absolutely absorb yourself in, that you love doing, and that you can do repetitively and see yourself making progress and getting better and better at. That's what keeps you motivated and keeps you from going insane when you're trapped in these little, you know, spaces. Like, to me, this isn't bad at all. To be completely and absolutely honest, this is not a huge difference in my normal life. Like, I would say for probably the past year, I go out. The only time I really go out is whenever I have to I'll go down to the Met and do a tour and then come straight back home. For me, the bulk of my life and the bulk of my work was, well, I'll tell you this. When I was in prison, the thing that allowed me to survive was I basically turned my cell into a monastery. I read nonstop, practiced nonstop, you know, meditation, ceremonial magic. I poured myself into this stuff and did not think about the outside world. And it sounds crazy when you tell people this, but it reminds me of a story about Timothy Leary, the guy who was doing all the LSD testing and the government put him in prison. At one point, Ram Dass goes to visit him in prison, and he says, you know, we've come up with this plan, and we're going to break you out. Timothy Leary says, no, you can't do that. I've got too much work to do. That was how I started to feel at times when I was in prison. Whenever I got out, it kept me sane in there. And whenever I got out, you know, of course I wanted to see the world. I wanted to see what the hell was going on out here, what I had missed. You know, I wanted to see cell phones and just places and different cultures and how people lived. But as I've only been out about 8.5 years now, but as the years started passing, I started to realize more and more I wasn't really missing a great deal out here. You know, there's not much in this world that appeals to me in any great way. So I just sort of went back almost to living a monastic kind of life. You know, I turned my apartment into, it's not even like an apartment, it's like a temple and a workspace, and dedicated myself again completely to doing what makes me happy, which is ceremonial magic. So I'm fortunate enough to get to make a living by writing about that, but at the same time it's still affecting my livelihood and the entire, you know, writing community, just because things like, for example, I have another book coming out in May. I was supposed to start the book tour at the end of, like, the very last of April. That's not happening anymore. There's no tour. You know, I was supposed to be doing retreats in like Joshua Tree and Topanga in California. Those aren't going to happen now. So even though I'm still doing the same work that I've always done, you know, I'm still losing a big chunk of my livelihood. It's still affecting my life in some ways. But really, if you want to, the only advice I can give people is, if you want to not go insane when you're trapped in one space and you can't go out anywhere, is find something that you love doing and do it nonstop. Think about what you have, what you're grateful for, and what you like doing, and focus on that.
Yes.
That will make you happy. If you keep your focus on the shit that you don't have, whatever you're missing, you're going to go crazy. You're going to be a miserable, bitter bastard.
That was a big thing for me when I was locked up, was remaining grateful. And, you know, I wrote about this in my book. I even would start doing gratitude lists where I'd list just 10 things I was grateful for, you know, you know, and that really helped. And for me, when I was locked up, you're talking about concentrating on things. I made a schedule for my day. Like I had a list. Like I at 8 o'clock, I'm going to do 100 push-ups. At this time, I'm going to write in my journal for 30 minutes. I'm going to read Hemingway from, you know, 10 until 11. And then I'm going to do other things. And I got weirded out if I missed stuff on the schedule. And I would sit at the end of the day in fucking prison. I'd be like, I didn't have enough time to get everything done. And I'm in prison, you know? Like,
that's the exact thing that I would do. I felt that exact same way. It's almost, you know, I was in a super maximum security unit prison, and most of those are underground. So it's like you don't ever see daylight. You don't ever experience the changing of the season. So it's almost like there is no time. You know, every single day is the same as every other day. Every hour is the same as every other hour. If you don't make yourself a schedule, you know, you're living in a vacuum, and you have to create a life for yourself.
Yeah. And it is an internal life at that point, you know? And it's also like, you know, you're talking about how this was no big deal. Like, it's not just the isolation. For me, it's like I was talking about the difference between what I want and what I need. Like in prison, very small things become precious, you know, very small things. And you're like, you know, I used to smoke cigarettes. It's like, holy shit, we got a pack of matches today. You know, that was a big fucking deal, you know. It was a win. You know, we got matches. We could smoke.
I found a straw one time. I don't know where in the hell this came from. One of the nurses must have brought it into the prison or something. But somehow I got a straw, you know, just like a drinking straw, like you would get at a fast food place out here. I drank out of that straw for 3 fucking years because I knew that I wasn't going to find one anywhere else. I would like fold toilet paper to clean it out, to, you know, keep it safe. Always knew where it was. That was a hard habit to take whenever. Did you find yourself even after you got out still kind of thinking like that? Because I ended up like, I would have every straw that I got when for probably the first 6 months I was out, Lori would have to throw them out of the refrigerator because I would save them all, like put them in the butter dip. Pieces of aluminum foil, you know. She said it was like living with a crow because I was storing shit up in there.
Dude. Everything becomes precious. So, I mean, cigarette butts, like half-smoked cigarette butts, because we used to take them, dump them out, and then roll the rest of them for hard times, you know. So, there was a bit of that. So, you know, I'm not grateful that I went to prison, and I'm certainly not grateful that you went to prison. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone as a survival situation training scenario, or anything. But I am grateful for the lessons I took out of that, you know. Because this is going to last longer than 2 fucking weeks. And I believe Kevin kind of touched on that with Doug earlier. This is spreading rapidly, you know, and we're in for much longer haul than I think most people realize yet, you know? So I think, you know, positive mental attitude, like Damien's saying, find something you want to do and get good at it, you know, and, you know, for fuck's sake, practice social distancing. For fuck's sake, this is real, man. I mean, you got guys like Doug out there on the front lines every fucking day. He that's my boy. You know what I mean? He risked his life for you on a daily basis. He's got a wife. He's got a family. He's got bills to pay, all that shit. If he gets sick, you know, who's going to come take care of you, people, you know? So it's important to really take this stuff seriously, not cavalierly. Like you see the fucking idiots on the beaches, at spring break. Now all my beaches are closed. I wanted to go self-isolate in the ocean and go surfing. Not happening,
Yeah, when I see that stuff, normally when I see idiots just being idiots, I'm like, wow, I used to be that idiot.
Yeah.
And in this situation, I'm sitting there and going, you don't give a fuck about anybody but yourself, because it ain't like
Nothing.
you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because all those kids have they're all going out there taking selfies and live streaming this bullshit. Right?
Well, once some of their parents start dying and the money dries up, that's where they're going to start taking it seriously.
Yeah. And, it's hard to not take it. It's hard to not take it personal in situations like this, because like I said, normally I'm like, idiot. Now I'm like, you're going to kill me.
They're making it worse.
Yeah.
For
You're going to kill my family. You're going to kill my friends.
Yeah.
Because of your stupidity.
And it's not hard. Take one holiday. Just be like, all right, this spring break, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to lock myself inside and I'll test it next year. But no, like people just are thinking about themselves for the now. And I think that's where society's kind of gotten messed up a little bit, is where people need to take a step back and start to realize like there's other people around them that are being affected by their actions.
Yeah.
So people can start understanding that. Hopefully we can get past this and it can move faster. I'm fine locking myself in my house right now. I leave the house, I wear a mask, I'm taking my dog out, I bring him back inside, I'm wiping him down, I'm washing my hands. My wife and I are growing closer in this point. We've been together since 2007, and this is the first time we've ever done a puzzle together. Like, mine's taken us forever to do a puzzle, but that, we're finding common bonds with each other that we've never had before. And I think that if people can kind of see this as an opportunity to grow stronger within yourself and also within your relationships, it's going to make you come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
100%.
It's a shame to go into any situation, hard situation, and not learn anything from it. Stupid people make mistakes and keep repeating them. Average people learn from they learn from their own mistakes, and smart people learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, and then you got all these guys that are like, oh, I'm out of work right now. Since I'm out of work, I'm going to go to these beaches or I'm going to go to the park or something like that. Man, we're all being affected here. Randy from the music industry, Damien from being able to not go on his book tour, Doug being the one that's sacrificing himself going out every day because of people's actions at the same time. I'm not shooting. Also on top of that, I wound up losing my job. I was one of the many thousands of people in New York City that got laid off. And, it's going to happen. It sucks, but you got to be able to think positively and try to push through this. Because if you maintain a positive mental attitude, it's going to make you stronger in the long run, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. When, Doug, you've done a lot of disaster preparedness, you've done training for that. Did any of your instructors ever tell you, okay, here's some really solid advice for when disaster strikes? Everybody panic.
No.
That's never
that
been.
Was not in the PowerPoint. No.
That's never been good advice,
No.
So positive.
No, and everybody, people get stuck on the news and like all this other shit. Like, pay attention to the people around you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Randy, how long? It's been like what, fucking 7 years. I've been texting you with where I am and showing you pictures of shit and right, Oklahoma, right, all that kind of shit. Because like for me, I don't have one. I had one coping mechanism that was in a bottle that I lived in for many years, and you guys know all about that. But then I found photography, right, Randy? We meet up and start shooting, and stuff like this. You need an outlet, right? Especially for me, I'm in it every day, and my colleagues are in it every day, and we don't always talk about it. We're not always great at that.
Mm-hmm.
So like Kevin, I was word vomiting with you and AC and Randy. I dumped a bunch of shit on you the other night too, because these are facts that are bothering me.
Yeah.
That I need to get the fuck out of my head because. tomorrow it's going to be worse.
It's real.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
It's really worse.
And I absolutely can't let that shit kind of just, sit up in there. But the numbers are worse. We have to coordinate this shit. We have to respond to this stuff. And the more you see people not paying attention and complaining and whining about this first world nonsense that they got going on, it's like, it's aggravating. It's like, yeah, what about my family? You know what I mean? Like, you're all worried about you, me, What about
comfort?
What would you say?
Bitches.
What are some productive, constructive, proactive things that people can do? Like, what would you tell them? Because you are a firefighter, so people are going to automatically look to you for advice on stuff like this. What should people do to be prepared and to get through this?
Well, especially while we're all kind of quarantining ourselves. I mean, when we're not at work, we're quarantining ourselves as well. Learn about preparedness, watch some videos, use that internet that everybody uses for stupid shit, and decide, I wasn't ready for this. And when I went to the store, there was no meat, no toilet paper. Toilet paper is a whole other thing. But like, look at the shelves of your store and they were empty, right? This panic buying, this happens all the time. All the time. Every disaster like this, people panic buy. And those of us who know this stuff happens, we're not, because we're ready. So if you learn about some of the things that happen during these times, write them down. Some of the things that I've done are, take pictures or scans of your important documents, right? Put them on a thumb drive, things like that. Put it in a safe, make copies of stuff, because you never know when a tornado or some shit's going to hit your house and fuck everything up.
Yeah.
I've seen that so many times. And, a hurricane's coming, it gives you a warning generally, right? And you got time to get out. But what if a straight line wind comes and just cut your house in half?
Yeah.
Don't know what a straight line wind is? Look it up.
Yeah.
It's like a pseudo tornado. It's like, super quick and everything's gone. Where are you going to go? Do you have insurance? Where's your family? Do you have a meeting place? You have walkie-talkies in case your wife was out walking the dog? I don't know. Think about all that stuff, like all the stuff you don't have right now, and figure it out. Like, what are the necessities? What would you need to coop up in your house for 2 weeks? What don't you have because you didn't fucking buy it first? So that's the kind of stuff. And then, on a mental note, I would say, really put your phone down and talk to your spouse, friends, whatever. Talk about shit. You learn stuff.
Yeah.
So guys, we got about 2 minutes left before this wants to cut out. So I feel like we're probably at a good ending point at this point. If we want to go around the table and let everybody say how people can find you, we'll start with Doug.
Instagram is the best place to find me, Doug B11. I'm on Facebook, but I don't really use that for much. So Instagram is the best place for me.
All right, and Randy?
Instagram is my only public social media or private social media account. You can follow me at D Randall Blythe, Blythe, at D Randall Blythe. My last name is pronounced Blythe, but I gotta say it like that so people don't get confused.
And Damien?
I think mine is just at Damien Echols on everything across the board: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm usually most active on Instagram, and even that, I'm not great at it, but I look at it more than anything else. So usually Instagram is the number one place for me too.
Cool. My name is Kevin Wilson. People can find me at Kevin Wilson NYC. That's where the majority of my music photography lives. And that's pretty much it. So guys, I wanted to thank everybody for a pretty stellar first episode of Not Just Idle Chatter, episode 1, State of the World. I appreciate everybody being able to take some time and being here with us today. So
thank you guys, man. Stay safe.
Guys.
It's good seeing you guys.
You too.
Yeah, man.
We'll do it in person when this is over.
We got to do it in person when it's over.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys.
Peace.
Later.